I call to order the special open meeting of the corporate members of the Golden Rain Foundation, Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Thursday, September 5th, 2024, and it is 1:30 p.m. We are in the Performing Arts Center. As I tried, hopefully you all understand, this is a Zoomed meeting. And in order to set up the cameras and the microphones for Zoom, number one is why we have only the corporate members down front. And they do not need any talking, kibitzing, whatever remarks while they're trying to make their decisions. That's why we have asked the audience to sit in the upper section there, the balcony. There are microphones there. When we do have resident member comments, you can come down and there are blue cards that you can fill out. We are pressed for time. We have to be out of here so they can get this theaters ready for the Bob Newhart show this evening, which I hope everybody's coming to. But we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm counting. We barely have a quorum.
We do have quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum.
We have a quorum.
Yes.
Thank you. The corporate secretary has informed me we do have a quorum. The absentee ballots do count towards the quorum for the meeting. They do not count for any motions except the voting that they have put on their absentee ballot that might happen during the meeting. We'll start, if everybody who is able will stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As I've said, we're on Zoom. It's also, I believe, on Granicus. Do we have any other press? I thought I saw, is Anita here? I thought I saw, yeah, we do have the Globe here as well, so I am acknowledging the press. All right, as your agenda tells you, the purpose of this corporate members meeting is to vote on Third Laguna Hills Mutual's request for the removal of Golden Rain Foundation directors James Hopkins and or Yvonne Horton without cause pursuant to bylaw sections 5.4.4 and 5.4.4.1. The next item is the agenda, and I would like to amend the agenda and move number 9, which is titled Member Comments, up to 6A, and rename it Resident Member Comments. As it is with member comments, if you are not a corporate member, you would not be allowed to speak. So we are changing that to allow the wonderful people who have shown their interest and come out today to support this meeting. So we will move that item from number 9 up to 6A. Are there any objections to the agenda? Seeing none, it is approved with.
You asked for objection?
No, capacity from the corporate members, Dick, not from you.
Could you please clarify, member comments, will they occur after we hear the reasons for the recall?
No, they will occur after the governance overview, before we have the corporate member comments and the comments from the directors subject to
I believe
recall.
I speak for the residents, that the residents would like to hear the reasons, so when they hear them, because they never have heard them, They wish to they have not made their decision, many of them, and they need to hear the reasons before they can formulate their decisions and inform their elected representatives how they would like them to vote.
Dick, it's too late for that. Members have already voted. We have a number of absentee ballots, and the members that are here today that are going to vote will listen to all of that information. They do not have to hear from all of the audience. We want the audience. We want you to give your comments, but you need to comment on the recall. All right.
Meeting was published.
All right,
Why are you changing it?
Sit down. I have a objection from a corporate member. Please remember, this is a corporate members meeting.
I have a question for the attorney, Juanita, and that is, and we never allowed absentee ballots at a corporate members meeting, and I would like to have a decision on whether that is allowed. Thank you.
We do have absentee ballots at a corporate members meeting. When we vote for directors, other things, we haven't had a recall for quite a while. We've had some tried, but they have not gone into the meeting. So the absentee ballots on that are moot. Okay, I have a objection from a corporate member asking that the resident member comments be put back at 9.
Please use the mic.
Before we hear from the directors subject to the recall?
I would object and want it to be moved back to item number 9.
Back to number 9, okay?
So you hear what we have to say before you speak. That's what you just asked for.
That's the way it should be.
Okay,
I would vote to approve the change that you requested.
The vote doesn't come until item 11. So we do hear what you're going to say before we vote.
all right, may I have the corporate members vote on my amendment to the agenda to move it up to 6A? All those in favor? Yeah, raise your hand. If we're going to amend the agenda to move the resident comment. Okay, that motion fails, so we will go back to the agenda the way it is printed. It is now number 9, and the only difference is instead of just saying member comments, because all of those wonderful people up there are not members of the corporate members, it would say resident member comments. Okay. Are there any objections to the agenda as such? Seeing none, then it is accepted without objection. All right, the next item on the agenda is our governance overview. And I would like to introduce Lori Poole, who is the attorney for GRF, who's going to give us an overview of how and why and what we're doing.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Lori Poole. I'm a co-managing partner of Adam Sterling, a law firm that represents common interest developments, or what we call CIDs for short. I've been a community association attorney practicing in this area of the law for over 31 years here in California. I have been GRF's legal counsel for the past 4 years. So how did we get here today? Last year, there were 2 attempts to recall individual directors, prior board president Bunny Carpenter and then treasurer Jim Hopkins. Those recall efforts did not comply with California law and GRF's bylaws. However, on June 5th, 2024, GRF received a signed resolution stating that a majority of the 3rd Laguna Woods Mutual's directors approved calling a special corporate members meeting to recall now President Jim Hopkins and Yvonne Horton. In my experience and opinion, recalling the board of a CID or recalling individual directors is a last resort action. It should only be done when all other efforts to communicate with the governing body have failed. Why do I say that? It's because the recall process is divisive and expensive. My reference to failed communication does not mean that the board or individual directors are not doing what's being asked. The board's job is to consider the input of the members and sometimes the residents too. However, the board, in fulfilling their fiduciary duties, must perform its due diligence and make decisions based on what it believes to be in the best interests of the entity it serves. So just because the board or individual directors do not agree with certain opinions or requests does not mean they're not communicating. A failure in communication means the board or directors have failed to consider those options and requests and to provide reasons why such requests are not being granted. There are 4 separate entities within Laguna Woods Village: GRF, 3rd, I'm abbreviating here, United, and Mutual 50. Each entity has separate and distinct functions. They can and should coexist harmoniously. Each of the mutuals governs and manages their own property. From the beginning, GRF's responsibility has been to provide governance and maintenance over the common recreation and support services that benefit each mutual member and resident. Laguna Woods Village was established this way because the common recreation and support services that were envisioned from the beginning would be too much for any one of the individual mutuals to provide by itself. Facilities such as clubhouses, streets, parks, and services such as security and transportation. Whether you use some or none of GRF's facilities, each mutual member benefits from having these amenities and services in place. They help with sales when you sell your mutual. They help rent your mutual to non-owners. Who knows, maybe they will help you discover a new activity or interest. In discussing the Laguna Woods Village governance, and specifically GRF's role, it's important to remember what the governing documents state for GRF. GRF is the trustee of a trust and performs for the benefit of all the mutuals and their members. All of the duties are imposed on the trustee under a separate written agreement, which is attached as an exhibit to the trust. Under the trust exhibit, the community facilities are owned and maintained by GRF in trust for the mutuals and will be operated by GRF for the benefit of the mutuals, their members, and successors in interests. The Exhibit B to the trust further states that except for medical services, GRF has the sole discretion to determine the extent of the services to be provided by GRF, the rules and regulations with respect to the use of the facilities, the improvements, and the persons entitled to receive said services or the improvements and the charges. GRF's purpose, consistent with the above, are also contained in GRF's articles and their bylaws. So whatever mutual board you sit on, you need to understand that whoever serves on the GRF board must put aside their loyalty to the individual mutual and must act in the best interests of GRF. This requires a clear understanding of the separate and distinct functions that GRF serves, which is to all the mutuals, not any just one. This is the basics of the fiduciary duty and the duty of loyalty that each GRF director is bound by when serving on the GRF board. So I hope this information was helpful, and I would ask you to please consider it as we go through today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. All right, we now have corporate member comments, and Third Mutual is up first. Mark? Wait, we're going to move a microphone down for you.
Thank you. This is a statement of a majority of the 3rd board directors regarding the recall. I am reading this statement as a representative of the third board. When Ross Cortese developed Leisure World Laguna Woods, he created a complex organizational structure, but with that complexity, he ensured that there were checks and balances. If mutual members don't like the actions and/or decisions of their housing mutual directors, the mutual members can recall the offending housing mutual directors. One of the key decisions that the housing mutual directors make is who should be on the GRF board of directors. It is not manor owners who vote for GRF directors. Instead, it is the directors of Third, United, and Mutual 50 who vote for which village members they would like to be our GRF directors. These housing mutual directors are also known as GRF corporate members. It should be noted that neither Jim Hopkins nor Yvonne Horton were voted onto the GRF board by the GRF corporate members back in 2022, but rather they became GRF directors because there were not enough people running to require a vote, and thus directors Hopkins and Horton were placed onto the GRF board by acclamation. As Ms. Poole just mentioned, one of the GRF board's key roles is to be the trustee of the GRF trust, and thus to administer the trust for the benefit of the housing mutuals, who are the trust's beneficiaries. Since the GRF corporate members are responsible for electing GRF board directors, per GRF bylaws, they are also responsible for recalling GRF board directors should any of the GRF directors act in a way that a majority of the GRF corporate members feel is not in the best interest of the village members. It should also be noted that reasons for the recall are not required to be shared, as per GRF bylaws, GRF directors can be recalled by corporate members without cause. This recall is not about the decisions that the GRF board has made, but rather it is about the actions of directors Hopkins and Horton, many of which are not seen nor experienced by mutual members. Directors on any mutual board, be it a housing mutual board or the GRF mutual board, are one of a group of directors who work together to make decisions for their mutuals. Presidents and committee chairs have roles regarding managing meetings, but when it comes to making board and committee level decisions, the chairperson's opinions should not be valued any more than that of any other board director. Consequently, the chairperson, along with other board and committee members, have only one vote. Regarding Director Hopkins, as the GRF board or committees he is on makes decisions that he does not agree with, he continues to push his opinions, even if his opinions are voted down by other members of the committee. He disregards other potential solutions if they do not follow the path he wishes to go. This continued pursuit of his opinions has cost time and money for our village members. While chairing a recent committee, Director Hopkins directed staff to perform tasks that were contrary to the committee's approved actions, and he restricted those with opinions differing from his from effectively pursuing and presenting their alternative solution, thereby rigging the outcome to his personally preferred alternative. Director Hopkins also looks to find legal loopholes to circumvent requests from corporate members if those requests deviate from Director Hopkins' agenda and opinions. Most recently, he's been looking to find legal loopholes to keep the corporate members from voting on the latest Building E and broadband proposals. Also, for many months, United and Third Board directors requested Director Hopkins, who was then GRF treasurer, to change its investment policy and get out of Sageview bonds, which were losing money. Finally, Director Hopkins agreed, but only after the Sageview funds lost over $1.5 million of village members' money. Once the Third Board successfully submitted a request to have a GRF corporate meeting to discuss and vote on recalling Directors Hopkins and Horton, Director Hopkins inappropriately used his forum as GRF chair to denigrate the Third Board's action and its leaders, make up reasons for the recall, and use scare tactics to sway directors and members to his opinions. Director Hopkins also inappropriately used his access to village members' email addresses to blast an email against the recall to most village members. Both Director Hopkins and Director Horton have overstepped their role as committee chairs by making decisions for their committees outside of committee meetings. During committee meetings, Director Horton is continually mean, rude, and openly hostile to other directors, breaching the code of conduct signed by all directors, as well as generally accepted standards of decorum. After the email from the LWV Synergy Project was e-blasted, requesting members to share their thoughts about the recall with board directors, the third board received many comments from members agreeing that Director Horton should be recalled as a result of her abrasive treatment of members. Some village members are suggesting that these proceedings are a result of poor communications, misunderstandings, interboard power plays, and overactive politicking. Sadly, this is not the case. The mutuals have tried repeatedly over the past couple of years to sit down with the GRF board to work out a basis on which we could collaborate, and in every case, we've either been rebuffed, bullied, or told that GRF does not need to work with us or anyone else, that GRF is the master association, and that housing mutual directors, in the notorious words of one GRF director, should stay on our own lane. We know that some village members have suggested that rather than pursue a recall, the GRF corporate members should simply not re-elect Directors Hopkins and Horton when their terms expire. The sad truth is that Directors Hopkins and Horton's terms don't expire until November 2025, and the third board does not want to put up with this unacceptable behavior from them for another year. It is for these reasons that the third board has called for this recall vote. The third board does hear all of the members' comments who have shared with us their opposition to the recall. We understand that many members like the decisions being made by Directors Hopkins and Horton. What the third board is objecting to are the ongoing behind-the-scenes actions and shenanigans of Directors Hopkins and Horton that are not appropriate for any board director, regardless of which board they are on or the decisions their boards make for the community. And that completes the statement from a majority of the third board. These brief comments are all that the third board will be sharing today. Members of the third board will not be taking questions and will not debate. While the statement provides information regarding reasons why the third board is pursuing the recall, the third board does expect other corporate members to vote based upon their experiences and perspectives of the actions of Directors Hopkins and Horton. Thank you.
Statement is not a motion.
Allison, do we have comments from United?
The United Mutual Legal Counsel, Jeffrey Beaumont, has been approved to speak for United in this meeting. Jeff?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Beaumont. I have been the attorney for United Laguna Woods Village for about 15 years now, and I'm an attorney that represents communities like yours. Actually, there isn't a community like yours. I do represent GRF and Seal Beach. They're not like you. And I'm familiar with Walnut Grove. They're not like you. All three of you are very unique, have unique needs, have unique requirements, and you have your own governance. And I've been involved in different chapters of your book where there have been efforts to recall certain board members, whether GRF or members of the mutual boards. And I'm going to read this statement based on what I feel are the sentiments of the United Board, but also just based on my experience. And the United Board does have the right to make a statement. They're free to. I've recommended they not. I applaud GRF for having Lori Poole here next to me because our job is to manage risk. And we want to do what we can to ensure that you continue to steer your ship down the great path that you've paved to accomplish great things and not spend money on attorney's fees. I've been before judges, I've been before juries in the context of recall elections, challenges to elections, and it's not a good situation. It's a waste of money. We're here today to make sure that whatever vote takes place, the outcome of that vote can't be second guessed and its integrity is upheld. And that's the primary reason we're here. The United Board of Directors understands the right to call a special meeting of the corporate members to recall one or more GRF directors. This right derives from the GRF bylaws and is available to the mutuals and GRF. Moreover, the United Board also understands the divisiveness, a term that Lori used next to me, recall votes have on the village, and especially the organizations that run it. Recall votes should only be initiated in the most critical times and GRF United, Third, and Mutual 50 should always commit to a collaborative approach when resolving conflict. Conflict on some level is normal, right? We all have it in our relationships in life. But how we resolve it defines the path the village takes. Frankly, recall votes are distracting and consuming, not just for each board of directors, but for VMS staff as well. And we have to remember staff in this picture. The United Board asks that we get through this meeting, respect its results, and turn our focus to providing the exceptional service our members have come to expect on a collaborative level. The United Board expects the corporate members to exercise their right to vote and the vote based on their experiences and perspectives of the actions of Directors Hopkins and Horton. So thank you, and I appreciate everybody being here, and hopefully we can get through this and get it behind us.
Thank you, Jeff. We have Sue Stevens, who is the head of Mutual 50. Wait, not yet.
She has something she wants to say.
Thank you. It's on, okay, thank you. As of 6.4.3 and 6.4.32, removal of directors by corporate members. Any director may be removed without cause at any meeting of the corporate members, providing 6.4.3.2 provision is made for any director to be heard at the meeting prior to the vote. I am any director, and it is United's time to speak. The only attorneys not present are attorneys for the ones accused. Is that not true? Okay.
You're not accused.
All right. Without cause means without stating the shortcomings and the points of contention. So you have just given us half an hour of cause. Okay. Okay. I believe this meeting should be postponed indefinitely. So that the persons accused of these have a chance to get legal advice. I so move. Motion to postpone indefinitely. Is there a
Kills the
second?
motion, it doesn't.
Yes. All right, we have a motion to postpone the meeting. That's the only motion that we have on the floor. There is no other motion that has been made. Therefore, it requires a majority vote of those who agree to postpone indefinitely this recall meeting. So are we going to do it by ballot, secretaries, or by hands? How do you want to do it?
Do not have ballots.
Okay, we will do it by hands. All those in favor of postponing indefinitely this corporate members meeting on the recall, please raise your hand. Well, okay. Two questions. First of all, our parliamentarian, Ed Tracy, has a question. Right, and the motion to postpone indefinitely effectively kills the meeting. And there was another question down here, Chris?
Thank you, because this raises a very serious legal issue. Third, as a representative of the corporate members, meaning the third directors, exercise their right under the GRF bylaws to initiate a special corporate member meeting for the purposes of recalling 2 GRF directors. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, we can all agree that is a right that they have, and they initiated that properly. That's why we're here today. If the corporate members vote to terminate this meeting, which the motion in effect does, that is in essence violating third's right to have a vote that the bylaws allow for them to initiate. That raises serious legal issues that I recommend that you not vote to do. This meeting should go forward, a vote should take place, and whatever the result is should be upheld. I strongly recommend that you not vote to postpone or otherwise terminate this meeting.
I would like to point out that we have no motion on the floor for the recall. Therefore, we do not have a motion to vote on. There has been no main motion made. The only motion that we've had is the motion that Director Blackwell made to postpone immediately.
May I insert a point of order?
Yes, point of order is always allowed.
As was just pointed out, both Jim Hopkins and Yvonne Horton are hearing for the first time the reasons for the recall. This does not give them sufficient time to prepare a defense.
All right, well, we are at item 7C, which is Mutual 50. Sue, do you have?
Hi, this is a great opportunity for a lot of people to find out that Mutual 50 exists. I think there's a general feeling that I get when I come to meetings and I hear various residents say, oh, Mutual 50, that's that assisted living place up, that great big tall building. No, we are independent living. We don't provide any assistance like that. Anyway, so I'm happy to be here representing Mutual 50 and our entire board. And our board is very supportive of this process. We think that it was done properly. Our attorney feels it was done properly. I'm very familiar with Mr. Beaumont's background, and I know that he would not lead us astray. And I liked his comments, and I'd like to reinforce those comments, that this is a healthy, good process that we are going through that's proper, and we have attorneys here to make sure that we don't end up turning this into a bigger issue or a more expensive issue than it is already. If you have any questions about Mutual 50, what we do, who we are, please feel free to approach me. Thank you.
And I would point out that Mutual 50 members are all GRF members and pay the same GRF dues that every single one of you do.
Oh, and my board is Zooming it from our boardroom. We have our own boardroom.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to number 8, which is comments from the directors subject to the request for removal. And we will hear first from James Hopkins.
Well, can you hear me? Yeah, I guess you can. First, let me thank all of you for coming, and thank you for your interest. This is an interesting process. It's kind of interesting to hear all of the causes that were without cause. One of the comments I heard is that we're uncommunicative. I don't know how many of you know me here, but many times you can't shut me up. So I find that difficult to understand myself. But let me, and I have some prepared comments, but before I go through that, let me just take us through some of the things that were said. Because as I wrote them down, I was wondering who they were talking about or how they misread this. Yes, I am chairperson of a few critical committees. I took those with me when I became president. By the way, I became president 6 months ago. I was treasurer. I had the ITAC committee. I also had the space planning. And space planning was kind of issue, and I think it's interesting, and I think that's one of the reasons we're having this discussion right now. One of the reasons, but this is just in the back room. When I took that over, all right, it was a closed session. And the purpose of being closed was to be very creative in coming up with solutions outside of the norm. Well, that deteriorated because, in my view, one comment kind of set me off. And that was a comment came from one of the directors in the closed meeting was, security is not first responders and therefore not important. And I said, you know what? Residents have to hear what we are saying. That's been my view as president of all of these activities. Most of you have never been to a corporate members meeting, although it's open. And the reason is it's open, but it's been virtually closed because of the nature. It's mostly perfunctory. This is one of those things, this is one of those corporate member meetings that is of interest to the entire community. And so we've got more people here. But most of the time they're not. I also understood during the space planning that input from residents at a committee level is how we function. If you look at each committee that GRF has, residents come in and express their opinion for each committee. That's how we get feedback. So here we had one of the most important committees, space planning, and the community was not involved. So at one of the first open meetings, I was approached by a club president, and he said to me, how do I get involved? I said, well, just come to the meetings. That led to a lot of other clubs, especially those affected by some of the solutions, to come in. Bottom line is that it opened up to the community what was going on before behind closed doors. And that was what we were trying to do. Now, let me just say the other part of it is that, and by the way, I did not, as president, I really did not want, I almost apologized for having to carry through one of the solutions. It's because the way that the space planning meeting was conducted, we had a person make a motion to actually designate 2 people on the space planning committee as the space planning representatives for the committee. That violates all sort of Robert's rules and the intent of space planning. So when that happened, it was shocking. But at the same time, there was another solution that was never going to see the light of day, and that is to rebuild the building. So I took on that because if you looked around, I was the one to take it on. I apologized 3 times for being chair, president, and the proponent of one of the solutions. But I had no other choice. I had no other choice. You, residents, had to see it, had to hear it. I've also been said that I informed staff to do work for us, the proponents of one idea, that were not given, and the other idea did not give that opportunity. That is patently false. In fact, I specifically said to the director, I don't need any help from you. All the data that I have had been put forward in prior presentations. And he asked me, should he help the other guys? I said, you do what you have to do. I said, I'm out of it. And to hear that someone has said that I inform staff to perform activities is patently untrue. All right? Let's go to the legal opinion on Building E. Building the trust gives GRF responsibilities. One of those responsibilities is to replace assets. Later on, as we went through the governance process, bylaws were created that indicated that GRF had to go to corporate members to do certain things. That is, go beyond the asset level that we have. Now, rebuilding a building, okay, there's still not a legal opinion yet on whether rebuilding an asset requires corporate member approval. But either way, I have always said that I need to have a legal opinion first, but either way, I will take this to corporate members. I've always said that. Now, for someone to say that I'm trying to get around it, that's their interpretation of it. But those of you, and I've said it out front at GRF meetings, that my purpose was to make sure, since it was an unanswered question of legality, and you have a real live case to make a decision, you can't get legal opinion on concept. You have to have a real live case. This was a real live case. And it was an important case, because if we don't have the ability to replace our assets, or we restrict it in any sort of way, then we don't have the ability to carry out the trust. And that's what this is about. I don't have a dog in that hunt other than being a resident like you. But I am a person of rules and regulations. Right? So I wanted this to happen. The other thing was investments. We were all surprised by the rapid increase in interest rates. In fact, in 1 year, I think it was 2021, that was the most rapid increase in the history of this country of the interest rates. In 2019, the entire village was in something called bond fund, converted to bond funds. In fact, each one of the mutuals, as well as GRF, together decided to get into bond funds. Right? And so the only reason Third got out is because they were threatened with legal, but it was not a financial solution. But they did not want to go through the legal hassle of being in bond funds at that time. As it turns out, it would probably have been better for everybody to get out of bond funds. But bond funds are safe. And by the way, they were U.S. bond funds, right? All U.S. treasuries or bonds inside of those bond funds. And I don't want to go through a big explanation of bond funds, but we were there. Banks have trillions of dollars of bond funds, trillions, and they didn't get out. Had they chosen to get out and do a fire sale like United, there would have been a run on the bank. That's what happens when that happens. So they decided to wait it out. What United did was they had a fire sale. And by the way, they had a fire sale in October 2022, which was the lowest point of their bond funds. Bond funds have two ways to climb out. Okay? One is market and the other is yield. The best way to do it is when the market goes up, and that goes up 1 month when you change out the bonds within the bond funds. You end up with a yield increase as well as a market increase. We generated another $600,000 in our investments as a result of waiting and getting out at select times. By contrast, United lost the opportunity for about $350,000. Okay, and that loss can never be recovered. And all you have to do is ask the GRF or the VMS staff. Right? That's what happened. And for someone to come in and say that I should be recalled for mishandling investments, GRF is in good shape financially. very good shape. The next thing is that I sent out an illegal email. A, I didn't send it out, and B, it was not illegal. What was sent out was there were a group of people that were not comfortable that I was being recalled, and they decided to support not having recall. They wanted to send out an email. So they asked, how do they do it? All right, I have a company. My company has the availability of going through something called eye contact or constant contact. We can send out a lot of emails. All right, so I said, you can use my email, my company's URL. That's how that happened. All right? I didn't send that email out. Now, here I am being accused of sending it out. By the way, one of the reasons for the recall. Guess what? The recall was done May 31st. The email was sent sometime in August. It could not be possibly a reason for the recall. So this is a piling up of charges. Right? This is a piling up. And then they say that the mutuals have reached out to me. They have not reached out to me, number one. And they have every means to do so. Every means to do so. And you know, anybody that knows me again, okay, I will engage anybody at any time. In fact, any resident that has hit me on my public email has always gotten a response. Always. I am not a non-communicator. Now, as I've said all along, this recall is not about me or Yvonne. Many of you, and I guess you know now, may not have known that there were 2 recall attempts, and I've just heard that they were to, quote, get my attention. What are we, babies here? And so that was done by Mark and Lenny Ross, and it was unsuccessful, as our attorney said, okay? And it was Bunny at the time. This occurred around the time we were about to do the space planning work. Deliberations allow for resident input and mutual board input, okay? Even mutual boards as corporations can provide input. As a corporation, they can provide input. And getting on GRF agenda to present alternatives is no problem. We've actually had residents get on our agenda to present such things as we want a stop sign. We listened to an entire presentation from a resident on getting a new stop sign. So for a board, a mutual board, to say that we're not communicating with them, they have all the structural means possible in terms of being on a committee, and then also coming to and getting on our agenda if they have an alternative. And yet, what we're hearing is we are uncommunicatives. The mutuals are not victims, okay? They are not victims. And we're not required to wait for a GRF corporation member meeting to provide meaningful input or simply to say yes or no. Doesn't make sense. But this recall is not just about space planning either. It's about a weaponization of the recall statute to change the governance and management structure and balance which was set up by the GRF Trust, which has successfully endured at Laguna Woods for 60 years. The same structure is in place at Seal Beach, Walnut Creek, and Silver Spring, Maryland. They are all successfully managed shared cost developments by Ross Cortese. A few directors have crafted a well-planned movement to destroy the deliberative nature of our collaborative process, which defines the responsibilities of each of our corporations and thus each board. They hope to convince many others that there is a hierarchical operating structure with some corporation on top. Not true. One of the secret sauces of this disruptive plan has been to convince GRF and even VMS board leadership that they are subject to recalls if they are to defend the goal of their disruptors. Naturally, this appeals to many who have incorrectly perceived themselves at the bottom of this hierarchical system. There is no bottom or top. Laguna Woods has a collaborative governance structure as opposed to a hierarchical structure, and it works. There is simply a well-planned and successful division of governing responsibilities that has served us for over 60 years. And happy birthday, Laguna Woods. Yvonne and I sincerely apologize for anyone who has been offended by our straightforward nature. Okay, and I can't apologize for her, and I won't speak for Yvonne, but I have been advised by some of the board colleagues that in this HOA environment, that my corporate background of directly addressing issues and people can be misunderstood. And keep in mind, I think I'm a pleasant guy. And by the way, I was on YouTube. I was interviewed about 3 or 4 months ago by HOA Insights. So, and if I get a chance, I'll send it out to you guys. But I was asked how difficult it was to manage a 12,000, almost 13,000 unit HOA. And I said, patience is the key. So it takes a lot of patience. And by the way, I don't take any of this personally. I've been in leadership positions before, and this is what happens. Some of you may not have approved of the recent GRF decision not to approve a gift of goodwill with a club logo. And that may sway your decision. This was a painful decision for the board, but understand that the gift was produced prior to a board approval. And the approval of that would have set the stage for the other 249 clubs to produce their gifts before official acceptance. Long ago, the previous boards made a decision not to accept logoed gifts, couldn't accept them. And this has to be maintained as the standard, or there will be no standard. Well, I believe I've adequately responded to the personal accusations. The real issue, again, is the unraveling of our community governance and responsibility structure. This recall, if successful, could leave the GRF board with only 5 resolute but relatively inexperienced members. Since no leader is totally without detractors, nor is perfect, I expected the pile on at the meeting, and I would have to defend the without cause reasoning. I just want to just say that for each one of the directors, your ballot is secret, all right? And as you, mutual directors, thoughtfully contemplate the real and ultimate impact of your vote, I ask that you consider the damage to the community above all other issues and make a well-informed and thoughtful decision as you complete your ballot. Thank you.
Yvonne, do you have a statement?
First and foremost, this is not my forte. I have a few prepared statements, but one of the statements that I want to make is, first and foremost, what my colleague over here said about several things about me were untrue. I want to make that perfectly clear. And I believe it's irresponsible for board members to lie and point fingers at other boards. It causes dissension in the village. I suggest that they step away from their computer screens and do some investigation for themselves. That's what I do, being the chair of CAC. I get up off of my rusty dusty and I go out and find out what those people need, or if they are just giving me a song and dance. Remember, your dues as members of GRF were $228 a month. which covers repairs, maintenance, services, and for all of our clubhouses, pools, and assets that we own. GRF boards, past and present, have diligently watched over your money. We do reserve studies so we know how much money to save for the future. Does your HOA do a reserve study? Think about it, about the dues that are going up. Most of that is because of insurance, I'll grant you that. But an example of would be Clubhouse One, that facelift and repairs that we've done. It cost over $3 million, but your dues weren't affected by that. The trust, the bylaws, and the recreation policy are my Bible. I am conscientious about following rules. I wear that like a badge. The trust and the policies I follow diligently. You might not like some of my decisions, but nobody can say I'm not fair, and I look at every problem that is presented to me. For those that support me, I thank you. That's it. Okay?
All right, we will go to agenda item number 9 and hear from resident members. Please, to begin with, I'll let you know that we have petitions of 1,157 names that are against the recall. We don't have all 1,157 people here, I'm sure, but they did sign the recall petitions. When you speak, and there are 2 microphones at each aisle, please give your name and manor number.
Okay, so the first speaker, we're going to call each speaker up based on the cards that we received, the speaker request cards. The first speaker we have is Carol Novick. And just to let everyone know, we're going to limit the speaker times to 2 minutes per speaker, and we'll end the resident comments at approximately 3:10.
I'm Carol Novick. I live at 2373A. I've known Yvonne. I have not known Jim well at all. But I can hear from what they're saying how deeply dedicated they are, and I know Yvonne to be that way. Because they happen to disagree with what the other members say does not mean they should be expelled from the board. They are doing their very best. And it seemed like a kangaroo court when you were expressing your views about why they should be recalled. And further, I think that you are obligated to look into you have fiscal responsibilities to us, and this is not fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Next speaker is Miss O'Hara.
Cancel. Thank you, 2149F. The only thing I want to say is to recall that's failed a couple other times without cause and without the resident's request. I just feel like, why should we pick up the tab for all these different attorney fees?
Next speaker is Jerry Ludlam.
Jerry Ludlam, 2197C. I'm here representing the Chinese America Club, which has over 800 members. Mike Yang, before he traveled, got almost 400 signatures on that Stop the Recall petition, which was emailed to the United and to the Third Mutual. And so we strongly support the continuance on the board of Ivana James. We felt they treated us very well during the Space Planning Committee. And this one lady mentioned the word kangaroo court. I think that's exactly what this is. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jerry Getson.
Hi, I'm Geraldine Getson, 566A. I don't know Mr. Hopkins, but I do know Yvonne. And every time I have spoken to her about issues that I didn't understand, I was very impressed with her knowledge and broad-scale interest of all the facts. I don't know if you know, she has an engineering degree, and she was a product manager at Boeing. And she's had a farm and businesses, and she has such a sense of wide range knowledge. And I have been a past president of the Laguna Woods Senior Clowns Alley, and also a past board member of Chicago Club. And she has always been a careful, interested ear for what we needed and wanted, and helped us. And I can't imagine anyone being a more devoted worker for the good of the community. And I thank her, and I want to keep her.
Next speaker is Alan Clark, and then immediately following will be Peter Berry and Terry Wargo, if you want to all start heading down. So next speaker again is Alan Clark.
Yes, you hear me okay? Alan Clark, 824C, as in Clark. My wife Diane and I have lived here for 7 years, and we've seen some of the terrible mix-ups that have come, including this building, and that it's almost a joke what goes on. These people I don't know personally, but we know a lot of people that know them. We belong to various clubs, American Legion, whatever. You know, in the situation of Clubhouse 1, we're still trying to move back in. We've been here all this time. So anyway, I think I want everybody here to realize we are here, and you are supposed to serve us. Okay? And we have to keep our heads above water, and it seems like things are filling up. Something else, the first thing I joined was the Saddle Club for the Equestrian Center, which since the day we got here, they've been wanting to sell so they can build more buildings to make more money for somebody else. We have all these different people that are involved in that, inside and out of people that live here, people that have horses, love horses, come in, riders. So one of the first organizations they had was the Equestrian Center, so that they could patrol this beautiful area, which used to be cattle, etc. Now it's places for us to live. So anyway, we want you to do the best what is for us. Thank you. God bless you all. Amen.
Next speaker is Peter Berry, and then following is Terry Wargo and Michael Porticore. I apologize if I'm misspelling or mispronouncing your name. Thank you.
Hi, Peter Berry, 55191C. I first wanted to comment that the approach of basically terminating a member without cause is beyond my understanding. Even though there are sets of rules, I'm now questioning those sets of rules, quite honestly. you know, I don't want to be jingoistic. It's un-American. It's just not the right thing. And now I'm compelled to say a second thing, which is simply, I was trying to grapple with the whole idea of, you know, terminating without cause. And then to come into the meeting and then have cause presented at the last minute. No, that is kangaroo court activities. Can't buy it. I don't think the board members should buy it. Thank you.
Next speaker is Terry Wargo, and then following is Michael Portocoro and Phyllis Waite.
Hello, my name is Terry Wargo, 859N. We must work together, to set a precedence where the residents and shareholders and the corporate members, all of us, are not harmed by the agendas of others who are trying to make decisions resulting in the detriment of our community for their own self-interest, including power and greed. Can you imagine if this unjustifiable recall gets challenged in a court of law? This could just lead to more recalls, which means more money out of all of our pockets. As stated in the Globe, it would cost us, Laguna Woods residents, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's unheard of and ridiculous. Again, prior to this recall, bylaws need to be reviewed, revised, and rewritten as such to allow us, the shareholders, to weigh in and vote as committed corporate members work together in the best interest of all Laguna Woods Village community. Let our voices be heard.
Next speaker is Michael.
Michael Pontecorvo, 607A. I second the economic argument. With a year to go, do we really want to spend the money? Okay, so reach in your pocket, board members, reach in your pocket. Okay, are you ready for that? Thank you.
Next speaker is Phyllis Waite, and then immediately following is Lynn Nickerbon and Noel Hatch.
I've been in this community for 13 years, and I've seen the money wasted on recalls and wasted on attorneys. If we have to pay them, that's great. They're worth their weight. That being said, to waste the money is really not something that should ever be considered. So I fourth or fifth or whatever, we should not spend the money, particularly for a year. Next, I came here, as I always come to meetings, with an open mind, to hear one cause, and I also wanted specifics on the cause that I too was troubled, was not forthcoming. Okay, so we hear, and then we hear a direct rebuttal to those causes are false. That is beyond troubling, because there is only one truth. So that is beyond troubling. The directors being recalled work really hard. I watch the Zoom meetings on meetings I don't attend, and I will tell you that we will not continue to attract people of their quality and caliber if we continue, I'll use the word that was planted here, the shenanigans going on here. We will not get good people, and that is beyond troubling to me. Do the right thing.
Next speaker is Lynn Nickerbon, and then following will be Noel Hatch, and then Diana Bolin.
Hello, my name is Lynn Nicholson, and I live at 3518 Bahia Blanca West. My comments center around the pettiness and the sneakiness of what these unfortunate actions have brought on. And then to get here and hear what the accusations are, it's outrageous. The directors are elected by the residents to look out for the best interest of the residents. All the time that's been devoted to this mess has taken away from the real issues. Money is being spent, which we can't seem to get any answers about how much money. And this kind of buffoonery is just not tolerable.
Next speaker is Noel Hatch, and then immediately following is Diana Bullen, and then J.R. Davis.
Thank you. My wife and I moved in here 27 years ago. A long time ago, I served on the boards of GRF, Third Mutual, back in the days of PCM, where there was turmoil, as apparently there is today. I now serve as mayor of your city, and I report that the city right now is in a very strong position, safety-wise, financial-wise, and that strength continues and will continue because of the village, because of, as suggested, the people that move here and what they find here, whether they find stability and whether they find the ability, at least in my opinion, that we have in the city. And that is the ability to talk to each other, to have divergent views, to sit down and collegially come to solutions. When I read the newspaper article about what led to this and saw that there was no reason given, I was taken aback. I appreciated, therefore, hearing the reasons that the recall was initiated and the charges that were made. The thing that impressed me the most, though, as I heard those reasons and as I've listened here, is the seemingly failure to sit down and talk it out and to determine what the issues were and how to solve them. And
Speaker, time is up.
Time's up? Okay. Thank you.
Next speaker is Diana Bullen, and then immediately following is J.R. Davis, and then John Cornell.
I'm Diana Bolin, 607A, United. I would like to see summaries available of how each and every director votes on each and every issue. That, in my opinion, will stop a lot of the shenanigans, because we will then know what's going on, where the coalitions exist, and where people's interests lie. And I do not want to watch hours and hours of meetings to try to discern that information. I want to know why we just can't see it. Last comment. Of all the residents behind me, how many of you oppose the recall? Please raise your hand. That's your feedback.
Next speaker is J.R. Davis, and then immediately following is John Cornell, and then Carmen Pachella.
Good afternoon. J.R. Davis, 34150. I'm president of PC Club, but I'm here really speaking on my own behalf, not that of the PC Club. However, I see a lot of people come through the PC Club. I speak to our greeters, to our supervisors, our instructors. I'm an instructor myself, so I see a lot of people. I have yet to meet anyone who says, I'm in favor of this recall. On the contrary, everyone that I've talked to is opposed to it. What we have here is two fine people that are being recalled, and I believe are caught up in some kind of a political power move that I'll admit I probably don't understand and don't really know, but I do believe that it's there, because these people did nothing wrong. They are fine servants of this community. So I'm asking all of you, please vote no on this recall. I believe a recall vote of yes would be a travesty of justice. Thank you.
Next speaker is John Cornell, and then immediately following is Carmen Pacella, and then Del Ing.
My name is John Cornell. I'm at 2402 3F. Has anybody ever tried to have a 5-minute conversation with Jim? I did once, and it ended up in an hour. I met with Yvonne at the club day 2.5 years ago, and from that point on, she has been a great source of information and energy, at least for the Camera Club, and I'm sure everybody else here. What has been done here is unconscionable, not telling these people what was going on. In my job as a photojournalist, I've dealt with presidents down to education board members, and all this is a political stunt. Thank you.
Next speaker is Carmen Pacella, and then following is Del Ing, and then Jim Ropo.
My name is Carmen Pacella. My wife and I, Dorothy Pacella, live at 65E. We live in United. I am not going to preach to this choir because this choir knows what's going on. They know what song to sing. So what I'm going to talk about is something that's very, very simple. First, I'd like to thank all of you directors that volunteer all of your time. It's a thankless job. It is a no-win situation. I believe that. It's hard work. And I want to thank the volunteers and the directors for that. See, this choir knows how to sing. Okay, so next week we will be celebrating 60 years as a stellar 55-plus community. We must be doing something right. Okay? Our hats are off to our volunteer directors and the governing body, except for now. A few weeks ago, we noticed that a couple of directors in third were trying to remove a couple of directors in GRF. Now, I just got a little note that says the GRF assessment for the per man or per month has only gone up $5 in 10 years. I want those people on my team, not the people that keep raising the funds every single year. You have two directors that have excellent bios, they have excellent resumes, they're captains of their respective industries, and I guarantee you, if you start recalling people like this, none of the others will come. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Del Ing, and then immediately following is Jim Ropo, and then John Salvador.
Yeah, Del Ing, 2050C. As I'm hearing all of this information and listening to two sides of the story, it becomes very obvious to me that this is a recall that we should not have and should not happen. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jim Ropo, and then immediately following is John Salvador, and then Richard Rader.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Ropo. I live at 51B. Full disclosure, I don't really know either one of these individuals, but I do know some things about them. I know that they are our fellow residents, first of all. Secondly, I know they volunteered to serve this community. I know that that kind of work for the directors involves a great amount of effort and a great amount of time. And let's all remember, time is probably our most precious commodity at this point in our lives. I also know that the pay is not too good for what they do. I think they only get one free lunch a month, and that's between a morning meeting and an afternoon meeting. And I bet they don't get filet mignon or lobster for that lunch. So let's respect those who have volunteered. Secondly, I find this process of recall to be an abomination. It's cowardly. It goes against our American system of fairness. You don't wait until now to say what you're charging these people with and then not give them ample time to consider their defense. This is not correct, and we need to change it. The last thing is, I've heard that it may cost between $100,000 and $300,000 to do this. You know, we're all struggling in this village to keep our HOA assessments down and yet meet our requirements and needs. This is not the way to waste $300,000. Thank you.
Next speaker is John Salvador, and then immediately following is Richard Rader, and then Janet Ehrlich.
Hello, my name is John Salvador, 374A. I'm first vice president of the Camera Club, and I chair 3 committees. I first met Yvonne 2.5 years ago with John, where she challenged our club, and we aligned with her as we were attempting to grow. She's been a great partner. She's tireless. She comes in. She is an excellent resource, and she has always been available to help us. And we have never seen anything other than her interest to reflect what the members want. I thought it was a breath of fresh air when the clubs were able to respond to the question about how to handle the property. That seems to be one of the main reasons for this recall. And it was clear that the members in the community did not want, and a lot of the heavily involved members did not want the direction that was happening with how to use the property that might be replaced. Then to see this recall with no reason which is legally correct, but in my opinion, cowardly. You should be out front stating your objections and allowing feedback. You should have feedback all the time. There should be much more transparency in all of these processes. If we had the power, I would recall the people initiating the recall.
Next speaker is Richard Rader, and then immediately following is Janet Ehrlich, and then John Lafferty.
Am I on?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. My name is Dick Rader, 270D. What I heard today was it seems like there's a bunch of policy and personal disagreements. Recalling 2 directors today is not going to resolve that. Instead, the various boards must develop new procedures and protocols to improve communications and cooperation amongst the boards. One other point. Excuse me. One other point. There was violent disagreement amongst many directors when a decision was made by the GRF board to solve the problem of where to house security and other staff members because the building they were in has to be condemned and demolished. So here's my point. The directors of United, Third, Mutual 50 We all have, and even us, we have the opportunity to present our opinions and suggestions on any resolution that's being considered by the GRF board. But I can tell you this, the directors do not have the right to use a recall or the threat of a recall to GRF directors now or in the future to force the GRF directors to vote the way they want them to. The fact that this meeting is happening now will give pause for anyone considering running for the GRF board, or for any board for that matter. Who wants to run under the threat of being recalled because of the way you might vote?
So we only have time for 2 more speakers. The next speaker is Janet Ehrlich, and then following is John Lafferty.
Thank you. I live at 3513C. I'd like to address my comments to the president of the third board. Have you really thought this out, Mark? Since you've been on the board, the past, I don't know, 4 years maybe, there have been 4 attempted recalls and 1 successful one with Muchnick, which cost us $35,000, our money. And then in 2023, and 2 in 2023, you tried to get rid of Bunny and Jim. And again, now you're doing, well, and then it was another one with Jim and Yvonne. And what's going on, Mark? Have you really thought this out? You know, we vote for the people. We voted for you to be in that seat. You're not making decisions in our best interests. We're seeing that. And when you try to run for VMC board, we will not be voting for you. The VMC board are the people who decide whether, VMS, it's still new to me, all these acronyms. They're the ones who decide about our amenities, like do we pay extra for if you're a golf member or a tennis member or a pickleball member, etc. That's what's going to change if he gets on that board. Pay for play is what it's called, right? That's what's really going on here. The people that he wants to recall don't vote with you, do they, Mark? They don't. That's why you want to get rid of them. It makes life easier, right? That's what's really going on here.
Final speaker for today will be John Lafferty.
Hi, John Lafferty, 3513C. I'm glad we've amused you all afternoon, Mark. You've done nothing but sneer, laugh, chuckle, and act smugly. You ran on a ticket including the words transparency. Then you tried to, as Janet just remarked, you've been involved in, count them, 4 recalls, one of which, I must correct Janet, I believe cost $300,000 because it was defended. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. So obviously this is a disingenuous sham on your part, running with your law firm partners. What is it? Laws, Cook, and whoever. So the transparency, back to the transparency. I'm glad you were amused, by the way. Back to the transparency. So first, you tried to remove them without cause. Again, apparently legal, but lacking in character. And then you come here saying, actually, we do have a cause. These are the causes. Thank you. Trumped, very good choice of word, I'm sure. Trumped up causes with no opportunity. You have legal representation sitting up there, 2 legal representatives. Yvonne Horton, who I know personally, is a tough character, but incredibly fair and incredibly good at empowering and energizing the community here. To fire her because you disagree with her is, I'm not going to use the French word, is shameful, Mark, and you know it.
That is all for comments today.
Well, I'm going to take Chair's privilege. We did not hear from the GRF board. They are not corporate members, but they are deeply involved in this. I believe there are a few GRF members who wanted to speak.
Is it on? Yeah. Well, Madam Chairman, all the people on the dais, corporate members, and my fellow residents. My name is Gyan Mukhopadhyay. I happen to be one of the directors at GRF. I have had a chance to know Ivan and Jim for a long time. And I find them that very good gentle lady and gentlemen, and they work with us day-to-day basis. Laguna Woods Village, a self-managed organization. Some of our residents serve as directors, and they volunteer their services on time for us. My request to corporate members to reconsider this, sit down, discuss with them, and take decisions and resolve these issues in a friendly manner and peaceful manner. This is not time for going against each other to remove somebody who is volunteering their time to do this job. And believe me, it takes a lot of time for me to go through the paperwork and stuff like that to give my professional judgment on every issue that we deal with. So my suggestion is sit down, discuss, and resolve the issues in a friendly manner and a peaceful manner. Thank you.
My name is William Cowan. I'm on the GRF board. I'm the treasurer. I'm in Third Mutual at 408 2E. And I just wanted to say that, we talk about removal without cause, and that's the legal standard, without cause. And I suspect the reason for that is so it's like, was there a majority that voted for it? Yes, we're done. That's not the same thing as having no reason. And what I think we as members of the community would expect is that you would do things like that with a reason. Now, I've only been on the board for, I don't know, more than 6 months, but less than a year. And I've had the opportunity to work very closely with Jim, not so much with Yvonne. And so, and I'm not here to tell you that your experience has not been your experience. But I can tell you that it's not been my experience. What you describe of Jim is not the Jim I know. I mean, I know him to be one who invites commentary, who is open to other alternatives, who is willing to hear a contrary view, and is even willing to, be swayed by a contrary view when presented. And so that's my experience. And I think Yvonne has been spoken of by people that work more closely with her, and I have no argument with them, or with you for that matter. But it is, it's the things that you did list, the reasons that you did give. I didn't know. I'm not familiar with all of them, but the ones with which I am familiar, I know to be inaccurate. Now, I'm not questioning your bona fides. I think you firmly believe that the things that you described happened. But I can tell you the ones that I know about didn't. And the only way to resolve that is to talk with people, to communicate that here's what I see, and get feedback as to whether or not somebody else sees that as well. And I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Anyone else from GRF? We will proceed to item 10 on the agenda. Introduction of the Inspector of Elections with explanation of the voting procedure and establishing our quorum. And I will say again, we have no motion on the floor. Jewel?
Are corporate members allowed to speak?
Each of the corporate members that we didn't have individual, but if you would like to speak, supposedly Mark spoke on your behalf.
I would like to speak.
All right. Come up to the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Jules Allen. I am a member of the third board. As a corporate director, we always have the power to recall GRF directors, but that power should only be exercised when the director violates their fiduciary responsibility. Otherwise, good order dictates let the folks do their job. If I had my druthers, I'd vote to recall Yvonne simply because I don't like the way she treats members who come before committees that she chairs. But if we recall directors simply because we didn't like them, we'd get even less done. I'm also dead set against the way the GRF has handled the Building E fiasco, but that's not my job, that's theirs. For a reminder of how things can get really screwed up when corporate members decide to invade the province of the GRF board and second-guess their decisions, we need only recall how the Third and United boards both vehemently were against GRF's decision to renovate the PAC 4 years ago. To recall, they threatened to recall 4 GRF directors, basing their argument on clearly erroneous legal advice of their lawyers. Sadly, the GRF decision was reversed, and we are stuck probably for another generation with a seriously compromised building. As some of you may know, for some time I have been illegally excluded from closed third board sessions, and it was at those board sessions that third decided to pursue this recall. I have attempted to speak to Mark and to other members of the third board to find out why they really brought this recall, and I was told that that is closed and that's not available to me. Therefore, I have no knowledge of their thinking, and trust me is simply not a proper basis for exercising the awesome power of a recall. In my business, show
Speaker
Speaker time is up.
Excuse me, you allowed much more than 2 minutes for the prior GRF person, and I have the right to finish. It will take 20 more seconds. So, as I was saying, in my business, which is show business, trust me is often a euphemism for a 2-syllable epithet that begins with an F, and you know what the rest of it is. Given the seriousness of the issue, I cannot in good conscience vote in favor of the recall, and I will vote no.
Order, please, we need to get through this. We've got limited time since we need to get ready for the event that's going to take place here tonight on the Bob Newhart Show, which I hope you'll all attend. Inspector of Elections?
There's a...
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'd like to I would like to position a motion and introduce a motion that we recall James Hopkins and Yvonne Horton without cause, and that we accept the Inspector of Elections, Unelect, and commence balloting. That's what we're here for. Thank you.
Motion on the floor.
We currently have a motion on the floor. We cannot have another motion at this point in time until we have the members vote.
Contrary to the right to vote, I would say it's an invalid motion.
All right, our parliamentarian agrees it's an invalid motion.
Thank you.
She did. There is a motion by Allison, seconded by Jim, and that's what we are working with right now. If they do not want to withdraw or amend it, then that is the motion that we are going forward with. So the Inspector of Elections will inform us, educate us on the explanation of the voting procedure.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Burkhart. I'm the Inspector of Elections. Corporate members have been provided one official secret ballot to approve or disapprove the removal of GRF Director James Hopkins, and one official secret ballot to approve or disapprove the removal of GRF Director Yvonne Horton. Once the motion has been approved to commence balloting, the corporate members will mark their ballots and bring them to the ballot box, which we will bring down for easy access. Once balloting has ceased, I will collect the ballot box and begin the counting process. Once the ballot tabulation is concluded, I will announce the results of the special recall election. I'd like to ask for a motion to commence balloting.
That's Ira and Jim, and Moon, okay?
Yes. So you could submit your votes and then return your ballots.
like a motion to cease balloting. Okay, here are the election results. For Yvonne Horton, there were 18 yes votes and 6 no votes, equating, or 8,616 of the voting power yes votes and 3,424 of the voting power no votes. So the removal of Yvonne Horton is successful. For James Hopkins, 18 yes votes and 6 no votes, or 8,616 votes of the voting power yes votes and 3,424 of the voting power no votes. So both directors have been successfully removed. Thank you.
All right, thank you all for your patience. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest. And please remember, for any of these boards, no one board member makes any decisions. There are 11 on every board, each of our boards, and it has to be unanimous. So I hope not to see you here again. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for coming. I have the numbers for the first of the votes. I couldn't hear this.
They were both the same, 18 yes, 6 no.
Somehow